to say that was the last time I saw my dad, too. I want to say that was the last time I saw him. And I got in that vehicle. By the time I turned that vehicle, I didn't turn around because their vehicle was sitting in front of me when he stopped me before I could pull out of the park. And I just put it in reverse, threw it in reverse, and bagged up to 55th Street and got out of there because I was pretty disappointed. Is that gentle enough? I was disappointed. Another movie I'm going to talk about later, I was angry with my father. I was angry. I was angry with my father. Anyway, let me move on. I'll be covering that in a few minutes too as well. Generally speaking, every action, there must be an equal and opposite reaction. For karma, for me, this is for me. When someone says karma, ooh, they under karma. I wrote down, for me, karma is neither ooh good or it's neither ooh bad. People apply this subjective verbiage towards the direction they believe the pendulum swings on behalf of the recipient of what they see of karma. From this seat of judgment, again, right or wrongs, and I say this in love because I'm telling you what I got. Because this is where I saw a twist. I go from this looking like somebody's about to get the, they butt whooped, and then there's a slight shift. Then I see here, when people, they say, ooh, you gonna get, ooh. So for me, I'm writing it as I'm hearing it. For me, karma is neither ooh good, in parentheses, or ooh bad, in parentheses, because it is people that apply this subjective verbiage towards the direction that the pendulum appears to swing for them. From this seat of judgment, we have to be careful, it would become easy to err. That's what I wrote down. Easy to err. It could be simply a time of learning for that one, a time of growth for that one, or a time of them being in the fire for that one. Karma is energy. What energy are you traversing through the world? It says, or out into the universe. And then I wrote, for whatever reason, intergalactic. Then something popped into my head. As I was writing down, Renee, this is what popped into my head. It says, the truth, you can't handle the truth. Says the character played by Jack Nicholas. I'm telling you, I'm only giving y'all what I got. I know I haven't looked at the camera recently. I hope y'all been keeping up with me. But as I was writing these words down, that's what popped into my head next. Some of y'all use cards. I'm using the words that were in my head as I was writing. And that's what I heard next. The truth, you can't handle the truth. Depending on who's listening and where and at what time, somebody on the outside is saying, oh, you might be saying at this very point you lying, but I'm telling you what the Spirit told me to write down. The truth, you can't handle the truth. That's what I heard. And it says, in addition, it spoke of, what happened to the page turn? Oh, by Jack Nicholas. Let me tear this page, I'll get it out of the way. And Jack Nicholas from the movie A Few Good Men. And then I highlighted it. A Few Good Men. I wrote down here, say it 3 times. A few good men. A few good men. The called, the chosen, the elect. Okay, moving on. No matter one's multiple disciplines, choice or decision or the lack thereof, the chosen, you, the elect, a few good, I wrote down, vessels unto honor, meet for the master's use, the righteous, those in right standing, following after that which is good, every people, every place, and every tongue, and every nation worldwide. So I guess that was, again, remember I said at the beginning there were a couple of points that came up that might be hard to understand. So I guess the part of you can't handle the truth is on behalf of those maybe at that very point of saying, you lying, you don't know what you're talking about. Something along those lines, and that's why that was put there. I don't know. I just wrote down what I heard. The truth, you can't, and I can hear, I can hear Jack Nicholson saying it the way only he can say it. The truth, you can't have, and then he goes into this whole spiel. You need me on that wall. You want me on. Look it up, Google it, Google it, Google it. But anyway, everything that I've said up till now, I want to believe is truth. I'm giving you what I was told to give you. I'm not making it up. When I tell you about the dreams, when I tell you about where I was under scriptural tradition, when they said you don't go here, you don't go there, you don't follow this, it is taboo. When I tell you that I said to God, are you sure? Y'all remember me saying that? Are you sure? This is what you want me to do. This is what you want me to, this is the, to do what I'm doing now. Speak to a community that we said was taboo. And others that are like that. And how I said to God, look, I'd rather you take me out of here if I'm going to be guilty of taking someone down a path they shouldn't be going. And how does it benefit me to when I talk to you about certain dreams I haven't told y'all about because they would be self-serving. Some of y'all would probably be saying I was lying anyway or making it up or trying to get a spot on somebody's seat. No. There is no benefit for me to lie to you. There's no benefit in that except unrest. My sleep is sweet. Hear me what I'm saying. Thank you. Somebody just confirmed it over here. When I walk down the street, I'm not looking over my shoulder. I might say the words before I walk out of the door. During those times I just can't see, keep what's near that's best for me. And for me, the thing that's near is the angels of the Lord, the ancestors, the guides, all those that have been given a charge concerning me. Then I can go out there. I don't have to look over my shoulder and look around and all of that. Yes, use wisdom. But we don't have to walk in fear. Why? Moving on. I got all off into those in right standing, following after that which is good and in light, every people, place, tongue, and nation worldwide, it becomes so easy for a form of vigilante justice to point its finger and shout at the top of the lungs with vicious and visceral epitaphs and eulogies and expletives at those we feel are treacherous and nefarious in their dealings. I wrote down on my last page here, let me find that before I move on. Because some of us have this mentality because all these movies we've been watching. I hope this mic is still on. I hope when we listen to it, I got some water here, thanks. I hope when we listen to it, it's fine. But I've got vigilante justice. Some of these movies came to mind because I think when we see an injustice being done so strongly and so, especially if it's against us specifically, we grew up on some of these movies like I got The Enforcer, I've got Death Wish, Death Wish 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I got First Blood, I got The Crow, I got Hard to Kill, I got The Avenger, Out for Justice, I got The Brave One by Jodie Foster, I've got Collateral Damage, I got Kill Bill. For me, I think Kill Bill 1 was better than 2. One of them was better for me than the other. I got Law Abiding Citizen, I got Man Apart, I got Man on Fire, I've got The Punisher, I got Walking Tall, I got The Equalizer 1 and 2, I got Faster, Rambo, Columbiana, and then even what's that the movie now with Canoe Steel. This, of course, will include any and all living graciously and charitable works to one another, walking in love and light, or love and life operative, and so on and so forth. It says karma will be dotted out in equal measure at the minimum. At the minimum. And I put that down there for a reason because, again, let me just read a little bit more. Karma for me, like I said, is balanced. It's balanced at the minimum. If you're good, be good still. If you're filthy, be filthy still. If you're walking in rightness or right standing, walking in love and light, be that still. But for me, this is what I'm thinking about. Let's say you are walking in love and light. You're a love and light operative. You're walking in, the just shall live by his faith. You're walking in rightness, and, you're following those things after good. I want to believe that not only at the minimum when karma knocks, the answer to your living, the life that you're living, not only at the minimum will you get that back, the type of life you're living, I believe that the universe wants to do so much more. That's what I'm getting at. But at a minimum, you're going to at least get back what you put out. But I believe the universe has so much more in store. But beloved, and I wrote down, as the protected vessel says. I don't know if you know her. She's also a reader on YouTube. I like the way she says beloved, beloved. But protected vessel. As she would say, the universe, God, the Most High, the Lord, Yahweh, Ra, Source Divine, will ultimately decide what is the proper and just measurement of return to be meted back to you. I wrote down in parentheses, reactive karma. I didn't read that anywhere. That's what I had in my mind, and that's what I wrote down, reactive karma. Back in the day, a program that used to be called Beretta. I'm probably, stating my age by talking about a show called Beretta, because that was a long time ago. But anyway, the theme song is like, if you can't do the crime, if you do the crime, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. That was the theme song back in the day. So you're going to get back what you're given. So if you don't want to, pay the penalty for being found unjust, guilty of unrightness, following after darkness, if you don't want to be charged with the karma of that, then you need to make a change. How about that? I'll go from there. Karma is knocking at the door. For that day may require that payment back at a minimum or worse. It says, I even wrote down back payment included. Is it back payment or worse in a word? Another word, consequences. There's a consequence for our actions, cause and effect. You get back exactly what you put out. Again, there is an order to all things. Ecclesiastes speaks of a time and a season for all things. This takes me back to the pet rock. Y'all remember just a few weeks ago, I talked about that pet rock. Again, I use that in reference to a type of discipline. I put down the pet rock for me representing the uniqueness and the diversity of various disciplines. Bring that pet rock. It says, bring that pet rock. Oh, disciplines bring, comma. That pet rock came with a 32-page training manual. A 32-page training manual. Again, rules, standards. The rules of the road, if you will. And when you talk about rules of the road, those rules of the road, whether you know it or not, you drivers out there, the rules of the road vary from state to state. They're not universally the same. So if you need a 32-page training manual for a pet rock, and you need rules of the road that are different depending on what state you're from, then you should have rules to govern this thing that we are in. The rules of the road that vary from state to state. And then I wrote down, these are not my normal verbiage. This is not how I speak normally. But I may read some of these things, but I'm going to tell you what I wrote down. It says, no running amok as one lists here. That's what I wrote down. And I don't know, is that old English, early English? No running amok here. And not living as one lists here. Rules must be followed. And then I have to note, something else came to mind, because growing up, I used to like reading books. I like turning the pages, and I remember when the Encyclopedia Man came by, knowing my family couldn't order a whole set of encyclopedias, we got excited if he would leave one sample. It would be the A's or the B's or some odd letter, and just the opportunity to look through. But I remember growing up, I've got here, the reminder me of a book I read and looked at while in grammar school. It was a book of etiquette, which spoke to social decorums, recommended mannerisms to help one better fit into society. In addition, it spoke of what was proper and considered not acceptable behavior patterns. Emily Post was its author. I remember going through that book early on, and I was amazed that there was something written that actually verbalized particular decorums of what was acceptable, what was best, what was proper, depending on events. And I remember even as a child trying to see how that can work in the hood. With our folks.
How far did you get?
I don't know. But I thought there was something special about that book, But anyway, it was a book of etiquette by Emily Post. The book fascinated me early on. I thought it can be continue to be useful, a tool or aid of advice based on current times. And again, the current times for me was we were living in the hood at the time, so I don't know how useful that book would be. And then when you think about cosmopolitan versus essence, it was different for us anyway, being of essence. I remember going in SS Kresge's, walking in the door, and the security officer followed me from rooter to tutter. And then came up and started feeling in my pockets to see if it was something in my pockets, and feeling that way when you go in the stores and walking down the street, and the different times that I was stopped by police walking down the street, and never having had ever a pair of handcuffs on me until I'm almost 45 years old, visiting my dad, and that 6-foot guy come out, and I guess he didn't like the way I looked at him, told me to turn around. I never had handcuffs put on me, and he put handcuffs on me to control. Needless to say, he was cosmopolitan, and you can see what I was, but 6'3", and as I said to different ones when I told him about it, his hands shaking, and he putting the handcuffs on. What are your hands shaking for? I'm looking up at you. You the big man with all the authority. What are your fingertips shaking? In my mind, I'm thinking, because you're wrong. You're wrong. And everything. And I asked him, I wanted him to be clear. You said the call came from this house right here. And he said, yeah, it came from this house right here. I knew he's lying. Lying. But, because he has the badge, carrying the authority, and, he's that, and I'm this, it's not too much you can say. And if it wasn't for the fact that my niece stepped out of the door and said, hey, what you doing with my uncle? You know him?
Went back and down.
Yeah. You know him? And I'm looking up him like he and he proceeds to turn me back around and take off the handcuffs that he put on me. And no sooner did he took them off, like I told, so I know I'm sidestepping, I digress, but it came to mind. I guess that was a trigger for me. As soon as he took them off, I jumped in that truck and didn't look back. And then the person I went to see, my dad, I'm Reeves, Keanu Reeves, his series, talking about vigilante justice. When we see people being taken advantage of, the first thing we want to do is cut them down and cut them off. And if we're not careful, we become visceral in our dealings, vicious, with epitaphs and elegies and expletives of those we feel that have been treacherous to us or our loved ones or to those that follow us, especially those we feel personally vilified by, presumptive perpetrators of. And then I wrote down, you as the healer. You LLOs, whether you know it or not, you're first a healer. Your job is to heal. One of your major jobs is to heal, to inform, to instruct, to advise, but you are a healer. And for you to take the position of a judge, almost a vigilante judge, it doesn't go over so well as a healer. And this is me doing my job, just putting it out there in the world for you to consider. Just think about before you're quick to, strike out at someone, ready to cut them off. Because I want to bring up something later about that as well. It says you're a healer. And not only that, you're a gatekeeper. I don't care what state you're in, what town you're in, what municipality, you're a presumptive gatekeeper for that area. So we have to be careful how we spring out and strike out almost as the judge, the juror, and the executioner. We got to be careful. We must remember it is not our place to pass final judgment upon anyone. The master of the universe, the Most High, source, sees, knows, and is assured of final judgment decisions. Final judgment decisions. When I saw this video and I selected it and I put the music to it, I thought it was just doom, doom, doom all the way. It was just total doom. But then I saw a twist in the narrative. It started to turn a little bit. We got to be careful. We got to be careful. I wrote down, for the knock of judgment, the knock of karma is assuredly coming one way or the other. I went back to talking about karma after talking about our visceral activity, our vicious activity toward those that we want to see justice. We want it. And some of our words when we're going forth. Just think about it. Look at some of your videos, how you come across. We can be kind of vicious. We can be kind of vicious. And I'm going to just do it right here. Lest we forget, some of us came out of those very things. And how dare we strike out verbally, viciously, viscerally, almost like I'm packing. I'm going to take them down myself. If God don't move fast enough, I'm taking them out of here. It's almost like that. It's almost how it's coming across. And another thing I want to serve notice is this. Keep in mind, many of this activities going on, they're being moved by a host on the inside. They are the external host, but they're being activated by what's going on the inside of them. Lest we forget, it's not so much Jack, our brother, Jack, our uncle, Jack, our father, Jack, our son, but it's what's going on the inside. We can't forget that. I'm going to stop right there because there's more I want to say on that. So remember, that's what we're seeing is in the physical realm. But what's going on is not in the physical. It is in the physical realm, but the activation is what's going on internally in the unseen realm. They love to see you kill off the physical. They just going to hop and skip and find another host. Does that make sense? Did I lose anybody? Let me come back to that. Let me get off of that. For the knock of karma is surely coming one way or the other. Count any perceived delays Again, I wrote down as I heard it. Count any perceived delays. Some of us, we've been talking about people doing the same thing over and over again. People, when they do their reads, they say this particular things keep coming up in my reading. I am so sick and tired of this coming up in my reading, and I'm saying sick and tired of some of them not using such politically they're a little bit more blatant with their verbiage. I don't want to see another day that I'm talking about this so and so person. I get it, I understand. But what I wrote down here is what I was given. It said, but count any perceived delays. Because some of us, if we're not careful, we're getting impatient. We know karma's coming, but we don't know when it's coming. But it says, count any perceived delays as merciful preparatives or merciful curatives. For our God is not willing that any should perish. Did I lose anybody? Did you get that? You understand? So, yes, karma is coming. Oh, it's as sure as what they say, death and taxes. Karma's coming. That's for sure. But sometimes, depending. I mean, Job, I know he wanted daylight to come sooner. But here's another thing I read. I wrote it on the back of something. But it says here, it said, the Lord turned the captivity of Job not when he prayed for himself, but when he prayed for his friends who trespassed against him. That's when his change came. Did I lose anybody with that? We got to be careful. When we see it seems like somebody's karma is taking a long time coming. And I am with you 130% that enough is enough. But what I was given to write down, righter of wrongs, is counted this delay for some as merciful preparatives or as merciful curatives. For our God is not willing that any should perish. Not willing that any should perish. And then I wrote down, highlighted, no, not one. Y'all remember my message back in the day? Another one bites the dust. Not one more. I mean, let's talk frank. Let's talk frank. We love our sons, we love our daughters, but some of them are low down. They can be low down. They can do some stuff that I'll call the police myself and tell them to come get Jack. Just come on and get Jack. I've had enough. So I understand. But that is your son. That is your son. That is your son. The law might be used as a coercive to bring about order, to bring about a stay of action, to give them a cool down period. But let's be frank. Let's be frank. We love our family. We love our family. And God is the same way with us. He loves us. And for the Christian, for God so loved the world that he loved was not perfect. It was so imperfect. And yet, he loved us so that he gave. He gave who? He gave for those of us that are Christians. Come on. So God is saying today he's not willing that any should be lost. So count the actions of karma that seem to be delayed on one side as merciful preparatives, giving that one a chance to get on board, to make some changes, or curatives. Now, you've been walking this way a while. I'll let you get away. 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 At some time, to whom the bell is tolled, at some point, but God is saying today, our God is not willing that any should be perished. So, all I'm saying is, don't be so quick to hammer down verbally, visceral with your verbiage. God sees. Isn't that how I started off? There's nothing under the sun that is hidden from the all-seeing eye of the Most High. He knows more than you know. Anybody ever heard the term, the first shall be last and the last shall be first? Some of the very ones that we're cutting off. I'm looking at the pots behind the scene. Since y'all see me not looking at the camera, but I'm listening. I'm seeing as I'm saying. If we're not careful, some of the very ones that we're being visceral with will be the very ones that are on the soapboxes talking about how good the Most High is and where they came from. And all you remember is what they were and what they did and what they was. The first shall be last and the last shall be first. Many of those we think going to be left behind are going to be right there in front. You're going to say, ain't that Jack? Yes, that's Jack. He always there in the front. So we got to be careful. Character shifts. It's a new day. It's a new time. They used to say in the Christian church, Renee, they say, I've been in this way a long time. And the refrain back was, yeah, you need to get out of the way. Woo! Let me move on. Not willing that any should perish, no, not one, I have highlighted. And then I have especially not to be turned over to the antagonists of our souls. God is the absolute kingdom builder, but the antagonist of our soul is looking to build his kingdom as well. God is not willing that any should perish. He don't want to see them going over to the antagonist kingdom. That prayer and supplication with thanksgiving should be made for all, even those we think are the lowest of lows. We ought to be praying. At least call their name. It might not be your son, but they somebody's son. Might not be your daughter, but it's somebody's daughter. Might not be your spouse, but it's somebody's spouse. Might not be your boss, but that's somebody's boss. Bear with me in this folly. Some of us are working in places. When the star bell rings, you get sweats. Because you got to go into that job and deal with that boss, deal with that supervisor, deal with that official, deal with that company owner. People are facing these things every day. And you LLOs, love and light workers, you Christians, you walking in right stand and going in these jobs, you think the antagonist of our soul is going to show you love in some of these places? No. It could very well be a daily challenge for you. So you better be praying. Or someone's going to be praying on you. Preying. Let me move on a little bit further. So no, he don't want none to be lost. Not to the antagonists of our souls. Not to Lucifer. Not to his horde of minions. No. To know. And if we must separate from our troubler or from the troubler, then we must. But that don't mean don't pray for him. Again, the captivity of Job wasn't turned until he prayed for his friend. Huh? But there will come a time that you must separate. It's understood. If you need to separate, move away, For the believer, scriptural tradition says, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. But if you can't do that, there comes a time to separate. You can love from afar. And you ain't got to badmouth them and talk them down. And some of us, we got to be careful, because some of us forgot where we came from. All them big harsh words. And some of us was something. So we got to remember. We got to remember. And we got to walk in love. It says, if we must censor, then we must. There comes a time of censoring. I don't care how big you are, what department you hold, even in the movement that you're in. Censoring might take place. Again, rules, abiding by rules, laws. And some of us after today, hearing at least some of the things I said, and you keep walking contrary to some of the things that I said, this didn't come from me. I try to let you know what came from me. But if you try to supersede these, you might have to be asked to step down from your place for a while until you can get back on the right track. And then you come on back, hey, come on, love and light. It says, if censoring must take place, then it must. And then finally I wrote down the word, sometimes excommunication. You haven't heard that in a long time. I don't know if it's still legal around the world, but in some organizations there is excommunication depending on what takes place. But just anybody can't do that. It has to be the proper ones that do that if it's still allowed in this day and time. Otherwise, the bottom line is, as far as the trouble is concerned, leave divine judication to the universe, to the Most High, to the divine, to the Great Spirit, to Ra, to Source. It says, because the decision by them and only them is revocable. Once God makes a decision, since he made the decision, if he wants to, have you ever read in the scriptures, under scriptural tradition, that God repented himself? He changed the course. He decided to allow something to go a different way. So if he passed the judgment, the judicator himself, then he's allowed to make, to cause a shift in the course. He's accepted one's change. He's accepted one's penitence or repentance. So he says, what he originally said, this is going to be the judgment, he can say, okay, I've accepted him. Now you can go this way. You can't do that. From the outside looking in, you didn't make that person. You're not the creator of that person. You can't be the judge, juror, and the executioner. Vigilante justice. Let God judicate. Again, today's message is the righter of wrongs. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Winding it down, winding it down. It says, if my people who are called by my name would humble themselves. That's scriptural tradition in the Christian church. If someone decides to make a change and walk in rightness, following things after good, then there's a chance for them to have whatever karma must met out to be a more positive karma, potentially. Are you with me? Or not so strong? I don't know. But karma is going to be meted out according to what the Most High says it should be. Hear me what I say. Moving on. It says here, otherwise, you, the outside looking in, stand back, watch, behold. It says, because the end shall speak and not lie. Those that seem to be getting away, they're not getting by. Their time is coming. Again, the delay could be for merciful preparatives or merciful curatives, giving that person a chance to change, because the Lord God is not willing that any should perish. For the Christian, again, or those that accept this, the scripture says, fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. It says, when judged by the universe of the Most High, the world will know it. When divine justice is meted out, the world will see it. Back to you as the healer. You LLOs, love and light operatives that follow after good, those in right standing. You as the healer, the gifted, the skilled, the talented, are the presumptive gatekeepers of your municipalities, of your counties, of your regions, and of your federal jurisdictions within every one of your states and every one of your countries. The arms of divine justice has no limit of which your spirituality represents. Whatever discipline that you follow under Ra, Source, Universe, the Most High, if that's what you follow after, that's what your hope lies in, that's what, that gives you rest, that gives you peace on the inside, know this, that the arms of the universe, the arms of the Most High, are not unable to establish due adjudication at the appointed time. It says, as that LLO, as that one in right standing, the just shall live by his faith. Those that are walking after righteousness, those that have the fear of God on the inside. You have authority on the inside. You have authority and power that covers principalities on earth and in heavenly places. And they're yours to will. Again, you're the presumptive gatekeeper. Some of you healers out there communicating to the world, trying to be helpful to them, based on what's happening in these various companies, countries and states and cities and municipalities and counties. Sometimes you see similarities, sometimes you see patterns, sometimes you see glimpses of trouble coming. You as the gatekeeper can begin to will your powers creatively to begin to thwart some of the attacks of the antagonists. The world may consider your spiritual activities mockery. They may consider them weak and pseudoscience. They may consider them superstitious and ritualistic. But you're much more than that. And you don't have to prove. I got down here, no proving necessary. Just be. Just be and know. I'm thinking about now back in the day when, like certain karate movies, the karate master walking down the street, almost pimping. He's walking slow and gliding. And some movies he is gliding. But ain't got to prove nothing. Ain't pulled out a weapon, ain't pulled out nothing. But don't stare him down. Don't threaten him. You know what I'm saying? Ain't got to prove nothing. But when the time comes, the showdown, and insane, and I'm thinking about the showdown at Mount Carmel. Oh, woo! When the showdown comes, it's going down, it's going down, it's going down. But you ain't got to prove it to nobody. You ain't got to, be the loudest talker, the most bombastic, I talked about in one of my messages early on, you got those out there that have a little bit going on and they want to lord it over people. God ain't for that. He ain't looking for you to lord it over people. Wonderful. My God is wonderful. He's my shepherd. He's my guide. He's all that I need. The Lord will provide. My God is so wonderful. 23rd Psalms. The Lord is my shepherd. You don't need to be lorded over anybody. I remember it now on some of these secular jobs. If you got to walk around telling your employees, I'm the boss, you got a problem. If you got to walk around telling people you the boss, there's a problem somewhere. That's some adjustments need to be made. So no, you don't have to prove it. Just walk in what you know and who you know. Learn the rules, if you will. Yes, we're back at the rules. The antagonists of our souls have a set rules they have to follow. If they go beyond the rules, they have to answer for that. The same with us, our thing. We got rules. We have the rules that we have to follow. If we don't follow those rules, there's no order. There's no consistency. There's no flow. There's no goal. There's no advancement. There's no results. Learn the rules, if you will. To note, I'm almost finished, y'all. I'm reminded how Julia Roberts, playing the role of Pretty Woman, felt. It says how playing the role of Pretty Woman felt down and overlooked when simply being herself. For those that don't know, Pretty Woman is a romantic comedy from back in the day. I think it was in the 90s, right? Back in the 90s, you had Richard Gere, who played, I think his name was Edward. And you had Julia Roberts, who played the role of Vivian. Yeah, Vivian. And then you had the concierge or the hotel manager, and I say that for a reason because I'm going somewhere with that. But anyway, yeah, and then, yeah, Bernard, right, Barnard, yeah. And then you had Edward. He was a corporate raider. He would, I think, buy companies and rip them apart and so on and so forth, sell them off for monies and all of that. But anyway, it was a pretty good movie from back in the day. But Julia Roberts, she was a high-end call girl, escort of sorts, I believe, because Edward one day driving around in Phil's car ran into her on Rodeo Drive in Hollywood. And he didn't know how to drive that stick-shift car and asked her to drive the car, and she went in there whipping it. But anyway, he fell for Vivian, who was Julia Roberts at the time, and that became the narrative of the movie. Once he asked her to be her beck and call girl for, was it $3,000, something like that, $3,000. But anyway, I'm going somewhere with all that I'm saying. But anyway, Julia Roberts, she was the Pretty Woman, played that role. But during this period of time, she was feeling down and overwhelmed. Simply being herself. And she was going through, if you will, a Cinderella path to success. She was turned away from some high-end stores. Edward, at the time, Richard Gere, was having an event, and he asked Julia Roberts, Vivian, to go and buy some clothes for an event or a meeting that he was having with the seller of ships, I think it was. But anyway, when she got to the place, again, she's a high-end escort, and the way she was dressing, kind of told off. She was kind of carefree. I'll just say it that way, without opening any doors. She was kind of carefree in her dress, and she probably came across to them as one of the escorts in the stores that she went into. So the purveyors of these stores did not want to deal with her. In their eyes, she was beneath them. In their eyes, though she carried now this black card, I'm being funny, because Edward gave her, I think, a piece of plastic to go buy up some stuff, but they didn't want to be bothered with her. It says, although she had the black card in hand, she was rejected. But then Richard Gere got wind of it. He took her by the hand. Picture with me God. Picture with me the Most High. Picture with me the Master of the Universe. Picture with me Ra, taking you by your hand. You're now changed. You're not what you used to be. You are walking in the light. You are following after those things that are good. You're looking to make positive changes. Picture with me God, as Richard Gere found the news. Why are you so sad, Vivian? because there was another event coming up, and he says, "What's wrong?" He says, "I just want you to go to the store." She said, it's not fun." He said, "Fun? It's not fun. It's something." He said something along those lines. But anyway, he took her by the hand. But I stopped it right here, and I want to bring it to us today. Picture with me, God taking your hand, taking you back to the very places that once turned you down, that once turned you away, that once treated you as an outcast, didn't give you a chance, that judged you, that were visceral with your words. With words concerning you, prejudged you, canceled you, especially based on your external appearance, your external movements, judged your speech. And the universe looks at you and looks back at those that rejected you and says, this one right here, this is what I'm saying. Instead of Richard Gere taking Vivian by the hand, the universe, the Most High, is taking you by your hand to the very places. I just told you the last are going to be first and the first are going to be last. But the universe taking you by your hand back to all those places that rejected you and said that you'll never be anything, counted you out. Again, right or wrongs. Takes you by the hand to the very places that you once were. And I wrote down in parentheses, this one right here, this one's mine. Did that go over somebody's head? The master of the universe, the Most High, taking you to the very places that once rejected you, counted you out, said you'll never be anything. Oh, you too quiet. You nothing. You the black sheep and all of that. But them taking you by the hand now, taking you to the very places that despise you, ostracize you, and talked about you. And the universe, the Most High, saying, remember I just said how the Lord God bragged on Job, hast thou considered? The universe taking you now and saying, this one right here, this one's mine. Hear ye them. And then I wrote down, so it is. And then I close with this. In that same scene, in that romantic comedy, when Richard Gere took him to the main place to shop, he said, you see this woman right here? I think he commented on how she looked or something like that. She said, Phil said, no, whoever the guy was at the store said she's this and that. And he just mumbling, stumbled over his words. And he says, we're going to spend an obscene amount of money. And he says, okay, how obscene? He said, what did he say? Viciously obscene. So the reason why I said that is what I wrote down in parentheses after that. Not only is the universe presenting you to them saying, this one is mine, I wrote down here, and this one that's mine is going to be obscenely useful to me. Did that go over anybody's head? The first are going to be last, the last are going to be first. Everyone that we, based on our viewing of that one, again, right or wrongs, the Lord God is saying today, that very one that you counted out is going to be obscenely useful to me. And then I have the last words, touch not mine anointed, and do my prophets no harm. And then I have, you have been told. That's all my pages. Now I'm going to close with this. The final reason for this right here that you're seeing. The day I chose this is the day I had this dream. Very unique dream. I was finishing up cleaning, and it had to do with my persons, not my physical persons. But the items that I was using was not operating correctly. It was like a hose, and the pressure wasn't coming out like it should. So I went outside as though going to a water hose or something like that. And I pray the mic is on and this is still being received. So as I went outside, I walked across a hole in the ground and I looked down. It was a semicircle and it was in the ground. and it appeared to be, it looked like denim fabric. Just picture maybe jeans cut up, or maybe a jean jacket covering this hole. And the hole that was covered by what appeared to be denim looked like the denim was starting to mold, and I could see the mold. But as I was going toward the holes to finish the job that I was doing, I was acknowledged to look down at that hole, and in my mind, it seems like I was told to remove that fabric from over the hole in the ground. But I looked at the mold, Renee, and I was like, in my mind, again, because in my dream, usually my mouth isn't moving. I don't know about you. My mouth, it's like I'm speaking telepathically, or I'm being spoke to telepathically in the dream. So when I heard the words, remove that fabric over the hole, I was like, I'm not touching that. And it looked like it's molded. So not too long after that, I got up, woke up physically, because I had to use the bathroom. I went to go use the bathroom, y'all. I know somebody's saying, this is, he just hogwashes, this is just him talking. I'm just telling you what I saw. So after I used the bathroom and I went to bed, the dream picked back up where it left off. I came to that same hole, and that fabric was now moved off to the side. And off on the left hand laid a body of what appeared to be a dead child. And I woke up out of the dream. Me saying that, somebody knows what that was. I go back to the plotting, to the planning, to the scheming. I go back to Romans, the 8th chapter, where it talked about accounted as sheep for the slaughter. Some of us were intended to be sacrificed. Some were sacrificed. There's a whole lot of children activity going on of all types. This is the position the body was in, laying there. The skin was there, but it was mummified. The reason why I say it was a child, as I looked at it, it said, that is a child. The fabric was off to the side, and the child laid there off to the left. And I woke up out of the dream. Karma is coming. Yes, it's coming. Judgment is coming. Yes, it's coming. I believe for the last 21 days, in one form or another, by the challenges that have taken place here and around here, something out of all of this that was brought up, they didn't want me to say. Someone didn't want me to say, didn't want me to talk about. There's something in there that was not meant to be said. They didn't want me to say it. It was meant to be said because it was given to me. Righter of wrongs. Somebody out there thinks that they don't know. I don't want to go into territory I don't know. But there are those out there that do sacrifices. I'll say it that way. There are those out there that do sacrifices. And there are those out there that know their boundaries. And I'm going to say it this way. A child? Children, as far as God, children. I'm going to say it this way. The Most High's children. It was a hole in the ground. It wasn't it wasn't your typical grave because it was semicircle. It was like a circle. If I were to give you the description, I'd say like a well, but it didn't have a top on it because it was perfectly level with the ground. But the fabric covered the hole up. And the fabric, I said, oh no, I'm not moving that. I went to go use the bathroom, y'all. Came back. When I went to sleep, it picked right back up to the same hole. And now it showed the fabric off to the side and that dead child laying there. What was that last line I said? You have been told. Right or wrongs. It isn't playtime, everybody, but it is pray time. And the pray I'm talking about is the P-R-A-Y, not the P-R-E-Y. It's prayer time. And our prayer should be for every people, every place, every tongue, and every nation around the world. And those of us that are considered the presumptive healers in our areas, the presumptive gatekeepers of our areas, we see patterns. We hear the patterns. We know about them. We need to call that thing out. And when I talked about, as an example, the workers of chaos, and that was just my example. I don't know how they literally do it. I don't know. But I wrote down the words that I saw. But what I'm getting at is this. Toward the end of my discussion of that example of the workers of chaos, once they see their attempts to seem to bring forth fruit for them, they begin to rejoice loudly, demonstratively, openly. They're excited. Now they're looking for their next mark. What I do want to convey is this. When we see the trouble at work or the antagonist of our souls at work, one thing they don't like is to be ignored. They're narcissistic, you know. They want to be acknowledged. When somebody's going for, this happened to me and that happened to me, and the doers of those things like, yep, that was me. I did that. Hey, Joe, I did that. I'm talking about in this unseen realm. They're getting excited about all the stuff that they did behind the scenes. And instead of dwelling on what they did, dwell on prayer against what they're doing and go forward. Don't give them that time. You want to get them excited, stop talking about the junk that they're doing. And start talking about what the Creator can do, what Ra can do, what the Most High can do, what the Source can do, how He can take you by the hand no matter where you were, but where you are now. And Him saying, this is mine. And you talking about a work for me that's going to be done through them. You counted them out. But they're mine now. And saying, touch not my anointing and do my prophet no harm. God is not messing around with His people. He's not messing around with His people. And for me, the best is yet to come. I don't know when it's coming. I don't know how it's coming. But the best is yet to come. And I had to get that off of me. The writer of wrongs. That's all I have. Thanks for stopping by.